I'll wait till the thing goes. I did need a drink. I was going to dive across there and grab it right in the middle of the traditions and saying I am thirsty. I'll get up there. This is, in fact, the most technically superior meeting, and I don't even know why I'm dealing with that because I got one of these on. First time, huh? I'm here not to do an AA meeting. I have some software I'd like to sell you. And if you don't want that, join up with my How to Get Rich in Real Estate program. I got to tell you something. This is, this meeting here, and I'll get into my story, but I want to give some kudos to the folks that run this, Tom and everyone over here. During that damn pandemic, everyone was hurting to go to a meeting who were going to meetings, especially in their first 30, 60, 90 days. And they were sitting, they don't even know how to go on this fucking Zoom. How do I do that? There's a thing right here on the counter, by the way. If you say a swear word, there's a big red X that comes up there that says no, 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 right? But it is, look. I'm not kidding you. It doesn't do the red X thing. But anyway, so Tom C. and a few other people were at this church over there, and some of you may or may not know this, but I'm going to tell you what went into that. He just went rogue. F this, F that, I'm not listening to any of it, whether it be the city, whether it be the whatever, and we had an outside meeting, and you bring your own chair, and you could come and go, and that's where the music started going, and it became a place, and it was the first time I basically grew up in sobriety in Santa Barbara, and we always thought we had it going on. Guess where they were going in their cars to come down? That damn ass meeting. And they were coming from the south, from the Pacific group, and it was anyone who wanted to go, folks that do go to meetings regularly, and it was just so impressive. God bless you guys. I mean, whatever that looks like to you. God bless you guys. Here we are back in here. It used to be in that little thing there. It was cool, but I had no idea it was going to turn into something like this after being on the down and out. After being, there's meetings in Santa Barbara that are shut down, and they were massive. Our Saturday night meeting up there, Grace Lutheran, it was called the Grace Meeting. It was massive. 300 people. You're lucky if there's 25 people there. I know this because I spoke. Now, that could just be me, because this one doesn't look as thick as it was a few weeks. Wait a minute here. It's all coming in. It's all coming in. No. All right, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. I was born in Glasgow, Scotland. And I spoke like this all the way up until I was maybe 11 or 12 years old. The problem is when we came from Scotland, we did not move to where people would move to, which would be one of three places in California. It would be Manhattan Beach, Santa Monica, or Hermosa. All the Scots and Irish people that came over in the mid to late 60s, that's where they moved. That's where the pubs are. That's where everything's cool. That's where the women could meet their friends and all the men were working all the time and whatever in those days. I know that's no cool now, but that's what it really effing looked like. My dad said, oh no, I'm not renting that apartment or that condominium, or what the hell is a condominium? There's a bit of land with two houses on it in a place called Cudahy. It's in southeast Los Angeles. So we moved there after living in Pico Rivera for about a year. So I spoke like this all the way up until maybe 11 or 12 years old. And I can still speak like this because whenever we were in trouble when I was a small boy, I don't know why I'm doing this because I don't really have to. Can you still hear me the same? It's not working? Aha, there we go. First time. All right, we'll go back to this. So anyway, but everybody spoke Spanish. And I learned about every single gang in Los Angeles and all that. And I'm running around like this and the American teachers. And I'm telling you this for many reasons. It is alcohol related because I thought I was fucking special. And with the F there on purpose. Not just kind of special, really special, right? Because I was different. And I had been going to school over in Scotland for like 3 years, and they stuck me in kindergarten here, and we're painting, and we're doing this, and we're drinking milk and taking naps. I was doing my times tables when I got here. I can remember it, right? And so I mean, my mum said, you know, she would be at parties. Oh, and he came home and he said, Mom, they've got me in this class. I think they think I'm retarded, right? You know, and that was it. So we grew up there. And bit by bit by bit, I learned the American ya-ya. Because when you guys spoke to us, it sounded like, yeah. Hi, do you want to go to ice cream? Because we were used to, hey there, lad, go down, go and take a shite on the bed. And everything was fast and everything was harsh and cold and itchy, you know. When I was in school, and this is important because it is part of my story. When I went to school, I went to a place called St. Augustine's, and it was on the other side of Glasgow. And at that time, Glasgow was, in fact, one of the darkest cities in Europe, Western Europe. Not because it was a dark, you know, whatever. It was the coal dust on all the buildings before it had cleaned up. And it was rough. People didn't shoot each other because, you know, you don't shoot each other over there, guns were. But it was lots of knives. It was a rough place to be. But I was a McGregor. You don't fuck with the McGregors. You just don't. Nobody would think about it. You know, it's just that's where the cousins, the uncles, you just don't, right? I would be people that, oh, he's a McGregor, right? Well, they didn't really seem to give a shit about that in Southeast LA. They didn't. So we made sure that they knew we were there. That's the truth. Every single day, going to school, small toddler, 7, 8, 9, 10, it was a fight on the way and a fight going home. Then it wasn't a fight anymore because then people would start to get to know you and whatever. It was just nasty. My mum and my dad were both big-time alcoholics. Rough, old-school shit, like you see on the movies, where they're rough and duff. And I mean, they'd both be in prison today for the things that they did. But I don't want to focus on that because it's like, boom, that was done in my 9th step early on, So I got sober in 1998, July 18th, 1998, but that was not my first sobriety date. So that gives me, I'll be 25 soon. And we're moving back into this guy because it's a little easier for me to move through. And then I do see people out there going, what the fuck is he saying? And that's okay. I do this in Scotland, only that's way almost the whole time. A lot of people say, oh, is it an act? No, it's not an act. It's the yaya thing, because if I yaya, Mom, I don't know when I'm 11. I'm 11, and Mom, I want to go to wherever. And my mom's like, whap. Don't you give me that pretty American yaya. So we kept this up. I have a sister that was born here that can speak like this. If she goes to Glasgow, they don't even know she's from here. She was born here, right? So there you go. Anyway, sobriety date, 1998, July 18th was not my first one. I will tell you one last thing on the school thing because it's really, really important. I went to a school that was, have you guys ever watched The Wall, Pink Floyd? the guy yelling and screaming and chasing and whatever. That was what the school was like, only it was not. I remember it being very itchy because you have the little coat on and you have little shorts on, and I could remember me going, why the fuck have they was wearing shorts when it's freezing here? It was cold there, you know? But everyone was really brutal to children, especially nuns, especially in school. I remember, maybe it was 4 or 5, and I guess I liked to chat at that time, but I remember, I guess I was a you know, as I do now. I remember going up and literally putting my hands out as like a 4.5, 5-year-old. Second, you know, maybe the second semester or whatever the hell they call it of school, thinking, oh, I got this school thing down. And having to put my hands out and do this, you switch hands because they hit you with this like leather strap. And all I could remember thinking is going, this is not cool. You know, being a guy with excuses, I would say, you know, I'm sure I said something in my mind to the effect of, the punishment far outweighs the crime. I was just doing a little chatting back there, right? And so my idea of any God was that. And you guys, when I first came into AA in 1986, were not going to convince me, even if you convinced me on the outside, that there was any other kind of higher power or whatever. And I'll get back to that later. So I wanted you to take a snapshot of what that looked. That was into my core. That was imprinted on me as a 5-year-old, no matter what anybody else. And did I go to church later? And did I do different things all down through my life? Yes, I did. I'm an alcoholic because that's what I am. I am one of the supposed 10% people in the world, in Scotland, the 90% of the world, that have this, whatever this is, right? So I'm one of those people. It's never not going to be that way. Haven't had a drink nearly for 25 years now, and there's still sometimes my mind does not work like the normally person out there. You know, I'll give you an example. I went to a few Al-Anon meetings with a friend of mine because his wife was in the program, and I said, well, I'll take you to some Al-Anon meetings, and we went to some Al-Anon meetings up in Santa Barbara, and we're sitting down. And so before the meetings, you know, everybody's cracking jokes, Al-Anon-y normie jokes. I'm not fucking laughing at any of it. I'm like, that's not very funny, right? And they're making fun of their kid who's an addict, and it's everybody else's fault. It shouldn't be that way if they're working the steps, but that's what it sounds like when they're all chatting, right? And then I say, well, I'll try to be a part of. I'll kick in a few jokes here and there, my kind of way of being. And then around the room, there was maybe 20 people in the room. There wasn't one person laughing. I'm like, I'm not with my tribe. All you guys in the back, you're with your tribe now. You might as well just dive into this shit. Like one of my sponsees says, it wasn't working for forever. I just had to swan dive in. If you're here, court card or not. I was here on many, many court cards, and many, many wives telling me to do this, and many, many you're going to go to prison, and many, many if you don't do this. So in I'll tell you a couple of stories and then we'll go into what I normally talk about. So near the end of me drinking, because I had some great ass times drinking. Okay, I worked at a liquor store when I was 12 at Cudahy at Wilcox and Clara Street, that in fact they would clear, you know, that we would literally watch one gang coming in with the Impalas, 4 or 5 Impalas and the old Chevys and all, you know, coming in, boom, 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 all low ridering in. Who do you think the cat was who stuck the kegs in the back and the Budweiser and the Coors and the Tecate and the this and that? Who was that cat? That was me. All of a sudden, there was no more fights going anywhere. because it's 18th Street, and there you leave Güero alone, ese. And he's the guy with the thing tattooed on him, and he's got his hat on, and he's like looking like, Jesus, he's just out of prison again. I kind of recognize him. And behind him is the little cholas with their hats on in their days. And I go, wow, and they're all doing their thing. And they just march in, get their tequila, get whatever it is they're drinking. I load it in the cars, and away they go. About an hour later, next comes in Florencia Trece. It's a Saturday. Right? Meanwhile, I'm trying not to speak like this and try to speak like this, and I'm going, Jesus, I don't know where I'm going, right? But while I was there, do you think I did a little drinking? Oh, yeah. And it was Korean liquor store. Steal from us. We'll sell it to you. Do you think I got a lot of friends that were 16 and 17 when I was 12? Some of them girls. Slow gin. Boonesberry, remember Boone's Farm Wine, Annie Greenspring. What do you want? I can get it. 12. Just let me do a little this, whatever. I want some, but I don't know what to do. Drinking away. It was fun. Protection, still doing okay in school, got to be away, dad happy. Oh, you need to keep working there, lad. You've got more hair on your nuts than I do, right? That's the way my dad was. That's how he spoke to you. At school, he's got a job. You went to PTA school with my dad. Oh, yeah, good, yeah, you're working on that, you're doing the wood shop. How's he doing his maths? He wants to be an engineer. How's he doing with his maths? Yeah. Yeah, he might be not doing as well because we got him a job at the liquor store, and sometimes he doesn't get off till 1 a.m. But we told him not to work a Sunday. Yeah, we needed to get a job, he's got more hair on it than I do, right? And that's my dad. That's how he was, and my mom's, ooh. We were alcoholics. My dad finally had to stop. He got 17 years, picked up after 17 years. 2 years later, could not wipe his own ass. That's what happens. That's what happened. And it was like, whoa, to me. That's a story in itself. All right, let me tell you a little bit about my stuff. Let me take a look at the clock here. Okay. I got more time because there was no birthday people, huh? We're not even sober yet. We're still running around Cudahy, California. That's not really good. I was a streaker. Remember streaking? Remember streaking? Yeah, well, Cudahy, California, high stakes bar, bikers there, run up, open the door, underwear on her head, streaking, 12 years old, chucking walnuts at these bikers. That's a good time to have once you've been drinking. You think you're a little out of control there and maybe not making good decisions. Kept the underwear because a couple times 1 or 2 of us would get caught by the police because there was police everywhere, Anyway, I drank crazy, blackout crazy from about 12 years old to I was 36 years old. I'm 60. I'm 60 right now. So I'm kind of at the point where I've been sober almost as many years, or pretty close, because I can't tell you exactly the day I started to really drink for real when I was 12. I drank before that, but not for real. So anyway, I went through Air Force, I went through divorce, I went through owning houses in Ojai, owning duplexes in Montecito. I had lots going on, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, like your average alcoholic will in fact do. We're pretty fucking badass people. Even those that don't think you are. I'm not badass. I'm just, the world's just done all this shitty stuff. We're badass. If we put our minds to it, we could do it, including this shit. And I'll tell you how that can go without getting all, woo, how many times are you going to read me this book? By the way, this is the answer. But anyway, so a couple of my stories are this, and I remembered one. I had a friend of mine that got me out of all kinds of trouble. He was actually an attorney for my dad, and he did my dad's taxes, and he was friends with my dad, and he was a Scotsman, right? His name was Charter Claiborne Hughes, and he liked to party too. So he liked running around with me, and he'd do my taxes and help me on the little early business shit and all that. But I would just keep getting in trouble and DUIs and all this shit going on. And he'd go, listen, if you're downtown, don't get in the car, go down and stay on my boat. And he had a boat in the harbor in Santa Barbara. And it was a pretty nice boat, 32-footer boat, pretty nice. So I would go down there and I would stay there until he said, I don't want you staying on my boat anymore. You said on Friday you were just going to stay there, wake up. I had a bunch of me and my friends going fishing, and when we got there, it wasn't so much the beer cans and the vodka and the cigarettes and all the shit going on and all the other party favors you left around there when you left. It was you must have pissed everywhere there possibly could pee. I was a serial urinator. When I went into that blackout, if I wasn't trying to chase you down to go, hey, honey, you like me? If it wasn't that, I was probably peeing in a closet somewhere at your house thinking I was in the bathroom. Especially if I slept, oh, let him sleep it off on the couch, and then all of a sudden, I'm the guy, where did he go? Where did he go? And come back, and then you go back to your room or the hall closet where the towels are, and somebody's peed all over them. That would be me. So he cut me some slack. He said, all right, I'm still cool, but you cannot stay on my boat anymore, man. You just can't. So I said, okay, fair enough, bummer. He goes, but if you're in a pinch, you know where I hide the keys to my office, and he's one of them older buildings in downtown Santa Barbara, just off of State Street, and he has all those antique things and the Persian rugs and all that. He goes, just don't get a DUI, and nobody got taxis, and I certainly wasn't going to. He said, just wander over here, go and sleep on the couch, and then in the morning get up. He's trying to help me. One of these days, I think it was a Wednesday night. Oh, Wednesday night, hump night. There's a good reason to drink, right? I was a big Wednesday night drinker because I couldn't make it too much further than that. So the next thing you know, I'm at his place, and I wake up in the morning, and he's shaking me. And this is like a Thursday morning, only it's not morning, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. And apparently I had peed all over his Persian rug. And now we're rolling up the rug because in a half an hour he's got some clients coming in and we're trying to get rid of the smell and all that. So that's kind of screwed up, you know. Well, God in his infinite wisdom got me back. I was driving around down in Long Beach, California. I was working at the time, so I got off of work and I worked night shift. I thought I'll work night shifts, that way I won't drink and I can still make some money. And I work on jet aircraft, by the way, right? I work on jet airplanes, that's what I do. And so there you go. No commercial stuff, there's just no money in it, but that's what I do. And so I'm down there and I'm driving around and I get stopped, pulled over. And have you guys ever heard of a place called Signal Hill? So Signal Hill happened to be the closest jail in Long Beach that I could go to. And apparently a week beforehand, somebody had hung themselves. And it was one of those places you don't want to go there. You know, now you're talking Crips and you're talking blood, and I don't know any of these people. And by this time, I'm so far away from the gangy stuff. I know how to handle myself, but it's just not something I want to deal with. But they take me to Signal Hill. They don't put me in the gang unit area. They don't put me in anywhere there. They just put me in the pick up the hobos section. You know, the guys that are all laying around and they're whatever, and they, you know, whatever. So I pass out, and I used to wear those Chuck Taylor Converse high tops because before they were hip, I just never changed them when I used to play basketball in high school. And I'm laying there, and I fall asleep, and I wake up. And has anybody ever been in jail? I suspect there's probably one or two people that might have. But they have the if you ever see on TV, there is no like seat to put down and all that. There's just a silver, you know, sheet metal or whatever it is, urinal, and it's usually the stinkiest part of the cell or the stinkiest part of the thing. Apparently I had fell down, hit my head, slept right underneath where the urinal was, and I'm in a place where there are maybe 12 to 14, maybe more, maybe slightly less, older, as they call it in Scotland, dossers, which means old homeless men or young homeless men, all peeing and pooping there. And I wake up, and what do I smell like? That was the big guy in the sky going, ha, 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 Mr. Serial Urinator. Do you think that stopped me from drinking? No. In fact, I walked out of there with one Converse because one of those buggers stole my other one. Found my car, got in it, said, shit, I can't go to work now. And could not, and literally drove heading back for up here because I lived in Santa Barbara, going, I'm not really sure how to get out of this one. It's going to require like renting a motel room, because of course I'm lying to my wife at the time. I'm not telling her I'm out partying when I'm there. I'm working, I'm just going to crash here, there, whatever, because I was a big liar. So that's the kind of stuff I did. I was a rotten son of a gun, son of a whatever, because I only thought about me. I only thought about having a good time. I only thought about, I deserve this. I only said I'm different, I'm unique, I'm this, I'm that, right? Well, I ended up kind of mellowing out a little bit, and I was working in Santa Barbara, and I was banned from having my license in California for 10 years. 10 years. Everybody goes, they don't do that. Oh, yes, they do. If you've got 5 or 6 and your lawyer's buried 2 or 3, my lawyer, that one with the boat, he would get them to bury them because they went to law school at Santa Barbara Law School together, and he would cut me slack, and it was like he did not want to see me no more. He was like my last friend. Facing prison is where I was going. Next alcohol-related incident, Mr. McGregor. I don't care what it is, whose fault, this, that, the next thing, you are going to state prison. I was like, oh. Now, this is in 1998. From 86 to 98, I was in and out and in and out and in and out. 13 months the first time, CRC, driving up to had a 1965, Oldsmobile convertible, Bonneville, right? And 4 of us went into it. It was cherry, and I literally was driving up to the goddamn CRC. At time it was called Pinecrest. You know how you can sit in the back, and if you sit in the back seat, you could sit up on the top and wave like, you're at a parade? Heading for rehab. With the wine and all, we'll sort out that little other cocaine problem, or we'll sort out that, And I knew it was time to stop because I was ready to go back into another downer, and I was at the top of something, because that's kind of how it went for me until it didn't, From that point on, I went into, I don't know how many different outpatient and whatever patient, I don't know how many, I can't put my finger on it, how many jail cell things, all of that, weekends, this kind of thing, nothing long term, not like my brother. My brother spent of his adult life a good 20 years of his adult life behind bars in the big houses, the big penitentiaries, behind everything that he grew up like, the 2 of us. He was an alcoholic also. Anyway, so I'm in what we call varsity DUI school, or at least I'm the one. By the way, I'm the fucker that gave it that name up north. So when you hear somebody say varsity DUI school, you don't understand. I've had 3 DUIs in 2 years, and they're making me go to this classes for a year and a half. If you're lucky, you get your license back, right? But I went. It's called varsity DUI school. It's a great place to go. You learn how to drive. You learn about all the cops and all that. But the counselor in there for the alcohol piece ended up being my sponsor. And he was a Vietnam veteran, motorcycle rider dude, war hero dude. And I remember sitting in a room, and there was, I don't know, maybe 10 people, maybe 12 people. And no one in there had less than 3 or 4. One lady from San Ynez had 9. 9 DUIs, and she had the ponytail and the ostrich boots and all this. Like, I don't belong with all you people. And I'm like, you are a drunken bitch, man. That's what I think. But I didn't say that. I said, hi, good to meet you, right? So he asked us, does anybody in here think they're an alcoholic? And there was a little of this because they had been to the AA meetings and their court cards and all the shit they'd been through. One guy had been to state prison twice for a year at a time. I said, you had to do different stuff. You weren't just drinking and driving and all that. He goes, no. Just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And his thing was he'd get in crashes. And once you're in crashes, it's over, especially if somebody hurts you. You're going. So my soon-to-be sponsor that I didn't know, he said, you know what, I want to talk to you. Do you know about AA? I know about AA. In 1984, when I got out of rehab, I went to AA for, I did the chip thing. I put the chairs up. I swept. In those days, I did the ashtrays. I did all that. I was of service. I just never did the steps, but I did 1, 2, and 3 because they tell you you can't get out of rehab till you do 1, 2, and 3. So I said, well, fuck, I'll do 1, 2, and 3. What is it you would like to hear? So if you tell them all the rotten stories about how when you were a kid you got your ass kicked all the time, they're like, let's just let this poor bastard out, right? You could tell, and that's how that went down. But I was in a rehab down in Orange County that they actually allowed me to be up on Paradise Road. I lived in a cabin on Paradise Road. Do you know where that is? It's up by Lake Kachuma, right? And there's a road there with all these cabins. So I lived up there, and they allowed me to be up there, but yet be on an outpatient as long as I got down there too. I was manipulating the system of even rehab. I knew how to work those counselors. Their hearts would, pull at their strings and, yeah, I've got it going on and all that. In AA, the old timers, not so much. All right, so here's what happened. This is what it like, here's what happened, and then what's going to happen now, right? When am I supposed to stop? Oh, I got 8 minutes and 47 seconds left. It's right here. Oh, I brought my cool watch that I never wear, but, all right, cool. All right, so here's what happened. He invites me. He says, by the way, in that room, I'm the only one that proudly raised his hand that he was an alcoholic. I wasn't going to argue that. I knew that at 15, 16 years old. So there's not much to that. I'll put the hand up if it's going to get me. Oh, yeah, we've got an admitter. Oh, we don't have to convince him. I was convinced then. Whether I was going to do anything about it, and it wasn't that bad, and the consequences, that was a different story, but I was one. But an alcoholic and a person who, right, alcohol has basically blasted their life and their life has become unmanageable are two different things. I know many of people saying I'm a functioning alcoholic, I'm this alcoholic, I've been an alcoholic since I was 14. It's kind of a badge thing in some kids, teenagers thing. It's a badge. So us saying, oh, he's afraid to admit he's an alcoholic. No. The thing is that two-part question there in step 1, right? I'm powerless over alcohol, yeah, all the time, I get it. And the part that most people don't want to really, my life is unmanageable. Well, it's kind of half time that's unmanageable, or only when she does this to me is unmanageable, or the cops, if they just leave me alone, it wouldn't be so unmanageable, or I don't care if it's a little unmanageable as long as I go out and maybe I can meet somebody because I'm afraid I can't even speak to a woman without a drink in my hand. Pick a reason why it's not as unmanageable as you think, or I thought, right? Anyway, so he takes me and he says, listen, I am leaving the place I'm at. I have another job and all of that. Have you ever had a sponsor? I said, yeah, I have had a few sponsors over the years. He goes, well, I'd be willing to help you, man. I said, well, let me think about it. Let me think about it. And he had a nice big piece of cake, those gigantic chocolate cakes where it's like a fourth of a cake, and I love chocolate cake, and 2 nice cups of coffee at this nice coffee shop. And a minute there, I thought, this is a little weird. He's awful nice for a Vietnam vet, right? Is he, is one of those guys, maybe he's more interested in me in other ways, because who's it all about? Me. And this guy in my head going, yeah, I don't know. Now he's wanting to hang out with you more and come to his house. And yeah, that's what it is. He's looking to do you, right? No. Well, the final incident happened, and I went and, the final incident happened in my drinking career, which it was pretty close to it. I walked to a bar, a pool hall that only served beer. I had 2 or 3 months of sobriety. A bunch of guys were going to go there. I decided I'll go and shoot some pool. I feel pretty good. And when it was over with at 2 o'clock in the morning, everyone else was gone, and I was the only one there with a couple of biker guys, right? And we got in an argument because one of my coats was there, and apparently there was some things said and some actions that took that apparently it was me. And then this whole training unit from the Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Department showed up. You know the guys with the flat top heads that just got out of the prison system and they have to do 2 years there and they finally get to deal with someone on the street? And Tommy Boy was the guy. They got to Rodney King that night. I remember going, perfume, and the spit coming off of my mouth going, but it wasn't me, my taxi's right there. And they weren't going to put up with it. It was just, we're going to show a show of force. So this was after being asked, do I need a sponsor or do I want a sponsor? So I get put in jail. And they beat the shit out of me. And the next day, they let me out. I was used to that, no big deal. I call my buddy, the lawyer. No, I'm not helping you. I said, please, at least you know who to call to find out what the charges were it might be, because I'm thinking I'm going back to Scotland. I'm not going to prison. I'm done. Hasta la vista, baby. See you later, kids. See you whatever, because I got to preserve Tommy Boy here. I'm not going to face any of it. Well, he says to me, I'll make a couple calls and I'll get back with you, but I am not representing you. I'm not helping you, Tom. I can't do it anymore. My wife's getting mad at me for it. It's not good. So he calls, he goes, there's no record of you being in there. I said, no, I was in there, man. I know I was in there. He goes, every once in a while they'll let you out. I know. I go, I've been in there many times. They always book you because they want the money. I know. Could you do it? Check again. He goes, I will check again for you. He goes, but that's the last time, because who I'm talking to, I know he can look right at the records when you go in. So he checked again. He goes, are you sure? Nothing on the computer, nothing in the paperwork, nothing there. The man was never there. I was like, holy shit, thank you. Whatever it is you are, thank you. Went back and seen Bob. He said, well, you're going to have to follow a few suggestions. And the number one suggestion that I have for you is, I suggest you do whatever the fuck it is I tell you to do. And that worked. Because I was used to that. Military, my dad, the other. You tell me, do this, I'll do that. Aircraft career. You don't go, well, I don't know if I want to do that or whatever. You do what the people above you tell you to do, because there's lives at stake. So I listened to him. And we went through these steps. And I thought, well, okay, I did it. Fair enough, And we looked at why I didn't get it, because I tried 1, 2, 3, and then I'd do 10, 11, 12 and leave out all the shit in the middle. I'd call it 1, 2, 3, 10, 11, 12. Hey, I want to help you at the rehab. And they're like, oh, there's a guy, I heard, I stole this one, but there's a guy that went to so many rehabs that when he went back to the second one that he went, or third time, they made him, in the crafts thing, they made a cardboard thing and with a leather strap that says, I am not a counselor, because he was running around talking to, because he knew so much about rehab, right? This is not rehab. Anyway, so here's what happened. I did this stuff, but I had to look back over the years because I was in and out, in and out, in and out, in and out. And what am I doing now? Well, I only, almost exclusively, Callie goes, well, you're into that. You like working with all them old banged out guys that ain't going to catch on. I'm like, holy moly, yeah, I haven't thought about it. Yeah, but it's got to be something that I can relate to. Why didn't I do it? You know why? Step 2, not step 1. I go deal with people all the time in the bushes and the this and that, friends of mine that are no longer in the rehab, they're no longer sober, but they can't get it and they're in the bush. They definitely are powerless over alcohol. They'll tell you that. And they are definitely, their life has become unmanageable. There's one guy, he literally had maggots coming out of the side of his knee. And still drinking. He knew he was, what his problem is he did not believe what we do right here works for him. That was me. When you guys would tell me to get a God, a higher power, get your higher power kind and neat and sweet and whatever, and I do that, I go, yeah, that's a kind of higher power I want, yeah. But that little guy in my head that was back in Scotland was saying, they're full of shit. Go with it for now. I never believed, I thought I was a fraud every time I do. Now I'm making a decision to turn it over to that thing, whatever it was not. Now I've come to believe that I'll never understand God, the universe, any of that. None of us will, some claim to. It doesn't matter. I have learned how to line up with it. Is it 7? Okay. I've learned how to, okay, so here's the deal. This is the best way to explain this. And I did a big thing up at June Lake, a camp out thing, and it was really kind of cool. And we were there, and there was a bird flying by, and when everybody was outside. And this is what I think. I think that no matter what the hell it is, if we go back thousands and thousands and thousands of years, there's something to do with light involved in this. Yeah? Whether it's real light or whether it's just the light of the Spirit, it doesn't really matter. There's some light there. And that probably is hanging in a beam, right? Some sort of a beam. Just like you take a flashlight, you fire it at that wall. This is the source, and on the other side of the wall, at the wall, you see the beam. The two have to line up. When I'm off to the side, you can't see me in the flashlight, but when I slide into the light, then you can see me. And then there's something going down there. So a lot of us say, well, I believe God is inside of me. Damn well sure is. Sure is. There's a soul space, there's a spirit, there's an orb, there's something going on, I believe. And this is all part of it, because if you don't get to and believe that there's some sort of freaking higher power pumping this source, and that higher power can be both at the same time, and has to be to do this. There has to be a way to line up with that light, and that light is, first of all, for us alcoholics and addicts, and whatever the hell it is we are, we cannot drink or use, or all bets are off, and the switch on the flashlight, the batteries ain't going to work. We aren't Rasta guys. We don't get to sit in Jamaica and go, hey man, I'm fun, all and those religions and those spiritual premises down in Peru and all that do the mind-altering shit. Because we'd go there and go, oh, we're doing the mind-altering shit once a year? Yeah, I'm up for that. And then they go, we're done with the mind-altering shit. I hope you enjoyed that peyote or the licking of the frog. And they'd find me licking the frog a week later and then stuck in there living in with the frogs. That's how we operate if you're an alcoholic, right? So anyway, it's all about tying up something. And I didn't need to believe in anything all along. I just had to have a concept that there was something there. My sponsor used to go to me, he'd go, I want you down on your knees every morning and I want you to say, God, thank you for keeping me sober yesterday. Please keep me sober today and find me somebody to help. And that's all I had to say. And I go, I don't know, whatever. He goes, God doesn't give a crap. Your higher power doesn't care what you believe. Just do this. And that's me lining up. Am I going over? I'm looking at this clock. Yeah, see, so your clock says 7:46. I just want to tell you. Oh, no, it doesn't. It says 8:25. And my watch says 8 o'clock, so I'll let you guys out of here. Let me finish with one thing. It is step 2. Because if you're going to go to step 3 and say, I'm going to turn my shit over to the vibe that's in this room, or the vibe in the best meeting you've ever been to, that's the God thing. And that vibe is in Scotland. I've been in Missouri. I've been in Germany. I've spoke all over, and I've just went to meetings all over. And there's a certain vibe where you walk out of there and you feel better, or you feel at least okay to the next day. That's why they say a day at a time. That vibe cannot be measured, but to me, that vibe in the room started out as my God, as my higher power. That's there. That's undeniable. Can't measure it yet. Maybe 100 years we'll be able to measure it, but that's my deal, right? Okay. Now, I'll end with this because I didn't realize it. I read a book that we used to read in AA well before there ever was a big book. And I'm gonna quote something out of that book, and this is what Bill and Bob and all those people read before we had a big book. They had to read something, or they could all sit around and complain and tell drunkalog stories or whatever. So here's what it is, and this is all to do with step 2 and what you call it, and is it God? And no, that's all malarkey. We got to line up to get the two things going, in here and out there together, right? And this was the best way to talk about it. There exists a mystic power that is able to transform your life so thoroughly, so radically, and so completely that when the process is completed, your own friends would hardly recognize you. And in fact, you would be scarcely able to recognize yourself. It can lift you out of an invalid's bed and free you to go out into the world to shape your life as you will. It can throw open the prison door and liberate the captive. This power can do for you that which is probably the most important thing of all in your present stage. It can find a true place in life for you and put you into it. This power is really no less than the primal power of being, and to discover this power is the divine birthright of all men. Thanks for letting me share. Sorry it went over. I misread my thing there. I was too busy, whatever.